with Argentina, and which is represented by Minister of Foreign Affairs Felipe Solá, as well as Dr. Elena Macedas and Marco Marcio, and our IAEA representative, the ambassador who is here with us today. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Albuquerque, who is our Minister of Science and Technology and Innovation, as well as Marcio Pontes and the Argentinian counterpart, and General Sampaio Olsen. We're here in the original headquarters of the Itamaraty Foreign Ministry for this event where Brazil and Argentina are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Abacc. In these 3 decades, it's left its mark on both of these countries. This event today seeks to talk about and respect the transparency that we've on nuclear issues. We'd also like to thank our partners for the success that we've had so far and how this has built more trust in our region. We'd also like to reiterate our firm commitment to the continued improvement of this organization, because Abacc in these 30 years has been so important to us. I don't want to spend too much time on this welcome message because we're going to give the floor to the other representatives, but I'd just like to tell you all that you're welcome here. And now I'd like to give the floor to the Secretary General of Abacc, Dr. Elena Macedas.
To the Brazilian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Alberto França, and the Argentinian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Felipe Solá, and Subdirector of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi, and Mr. Albuquerque, and the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation of Brazil, Marcio Pontes, and the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation of Argentina, and our Minister of the Navy of Brazil, and also that his counterpart in Brazil, in Argentina. Members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, in the name of Abacc, I'd like to thank you all for your presence here today. On 18th of July, 1991, we signed in Guadalajara, Mexico, the Non-Proliferation Treaty for our region. This was an agreement between Argentina and Brazil for the exclusivity of peaceful uses of nuclear energy, or the bilateral agreement was signed in Guadalajara, Mexico. It establishes a system of reciprocal control of nuclear materials and facilities that is a system of regional safeguards, which at the time was an innovation within the international non-proliferation regime, and there is no similar regime in the world to date. The bilateral agreement provides for the creation of an intergovernmental organization that defines the mission of verifying and providing assurance for that all nuclear materials and facilities in both countries are used exclusively for peaceful use purposes. Thus, Abacc was born with
and its objective was clearly framed in the agreement, which is to administer and implement the common system of accounting and control of nuclear materials and regional safeguard system independent of both countries. Although we emerged from a political process of regional integration, we are a technical organization with well-defined objectives and tasks. In order to comply with these 30 years gave shape to Abacc and established a relatively simple structure that has remained in place to this day. Over time, it has proven to be adequate and effective, not only for both countries to ensure compliance with the agreement, but also to ensure the independence of the Secretariat's actions and its institutional autonomy. Our agency is comprised of a governing body, the Commission, and an executive body, the Secretariat. The Commission is composed of 4 members, with each government appointing 2 of them. The Secretariat is headed by 2 secretaries, 1 from each nationality, who rotate the responsibility of heading the agency on an annual basis. There are 12 Abacc officers, counting the institutional and administrative financial sectors, 6 of each nationality, and the number has been the same since its creation. Human capital is one of Abacc's strengths. Perhaps it's the most important. Throughout these 30 years, both countries, honoring their commitment, have placed highly qualified personnel at the service of the Secretariat. In particular, Abacc's officers are senior level and come from the nuclear and safeguard sectors of both countries, with extensive experience in their thematic areas. As a regional safeguard system, one of our pillars is the cross-inspection regime, whereby Brazilian inspectors inspect Argentine facilities and vice versa. Following an annual inspection, which is foreseen in the quadripartite agreement, we have about 45 safeguard staff. We have lots of professionalism, and historically these people have been part of our organization, and they have improved the transparency and cooperation. Women in the non-proliferation and disarmament activities are very important. Nuclear women in this field of non-proliferation and disarmament have been actively present since the beginning of these issues, and by nuclear women, I mean not only scientists and technologists, but also diplomats, politicians, sociologists, and communicators. At the Secretariat, women currently represent 42% of the technical and administrative staff and 27% of the inspectorate. I welcome all the initiatives currently being promoted by the IAEA in terms of gender equality policies and the promotion of scientific and leadership training for nuclear women. I personally believe that the increased collaboration of men and women in the nuclear field seems to be bringing interesting and enriching nuances to the way decisions are made and the styles of work. In its day-to-day work, the Secretariat has been strengthening an atmosphere of participation and dialogue, and promotes a collaborative and shared work style among the officers, which, we believe, has contributed positively to maintaining a balance in work decisions and fostering unity among the staff, important factors in view of Abacc's technical and symbolic role. We have faced a great challenge during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to emphasize that for the Secretariat, the health of Abacc personnel has been a priority. However, we set ourselves the goal of continuing to achieve the objectives of our mandate, in addition to complying with the prevention measures adopted by both countries. We are grateful for the help provided in this difficult situation by the national authorities and the ministries of foreign affairs of both countries, and we can proudly say that during 2020 and so far in 2021, we have been complying with the planned schedule of inspections and carrying out verification activities. I would also like to highlight that the coordination and cooperation with the IAEA this situation has been extensive. Abacc, Argentina, Brazil, and the IAEA signed a comprehensive safeguards agreement, the so-called quadripartite agreement, which entered into force in March 1994. This agreement contains well-defined provisions on coordination and cooperation between IAEA and Abacc. While it states that both agencies should reach independent conclusions, it provides for coordination to minimize duplication of activities in the field. I'm pleased to emphasize the good results obtained in the relationship between IAEA and Abacc over the past 30 years, which reflects the high level of understanding and cooperation achieved by both organizations. In the field of assurances on the exclusively peaceful use of nuclear energy, our agency, as a regional safeguard body, is part of a broad network of international instruments and organizations, each with distinctive features. And we also the bilateral agreement reflects the principles of the Treaty of Tlatelolco, and the creation of Abacc contributed to the establishment of the first nuclear weapons-free zone in a densely populated region of the world. In this context, Abacc and OPNL have established a framework for a relationship of information exchange and cooperation, an agreement that we hope to further deepen in the future. Today, we celebrate the 30th anniversary of Abacc. The nuclear plans of both countries continue to expand, and we face new challenges at the Secretariat. We are approaching the future in a forward-looking manner, adopting actions that will ensure that we will be able to meet this growth with the responsiveness and technical excellence that have characterized our agency since its beginning. We have consolidated a solid international credibility in the effective and efficient verification of nuclear activities in Argentina and Brazil. The main reasons for this have been the continuous political commitment and the technical and economic support provided by both countries, and I reiterate Abacc's independence in the implementation of its verification activities. The results obtained during this time demonstrate to the international community the full compliance of Brazil and Argentina with the obligations assumed in the bilateral agreement, and the clear and defined commitment of both countries to the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Although our objective, as I said at the beginning, is technical work, implementing safeguards with our daily work and accumulated experience, Abacc continues to contribute to confidence building and reform between Brazil and Argentina, and is an important factor for the growing cooperation between the two countries in the area of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. I think I'd like to conclude by thanking both countries and the members of the Commission for their continued support to our agency. A salute to all the people who have been part of Abacc in these 30 years for all their efforts. At the Secretariat, we are a group of people who share two languages and two cultures in our professional and personal dealings, mutually enriching each other, and above all, embodying on a daily basis that ideal of trust, transparency, and mutual cooperation. We are a concrete meeting point between the two countries. An affectionate thank you to my colleague, Dr. Marco Marzo, to the officers of the members of the Secretariat, and to the Abacc Inspectorate for their professionalism and dedication. Thank you for your attention.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento fará uso da palavra o ilustríssimo Dr. Marco Marzo, secretário adjunto da Abacc.
Our Subsecretary, Assistant Secretary of Abacc, Dr. Marco Marzo.
Excelentíssimo senhor Ministro das Relações Exteriores do Brasil, Embaixador Carlos Alberto Franco França, Excelentíssimo senhor Ministro das Relações Exteriores, Comércio Internacional e Culto da Argentina, Engenheiro Felipe
Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil,
Excelentíssimo Diretor-Geral
Franco
da Agência Internacional
and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Argentina, Felipe Solá,
Excelentíssimo Ministro
Mariano Grossi, the Ambassador of the IAEA,
Almirante de Esquadra
and our Minister of Mines and Energy, Squadron Admiral
Roberto Salvaressa,
And
Senhor Ministro de Estado da Ciência, Tecnologia
the
e
Minister of
Inovações do
Science and
Brasil,
Technology
Senhor
and
Marcos
Innovation
Pontes.
of Brazil,
Excelentíssimo
Marcos
diretor,
Pontes,
Senhor Diretor-Geral
His
de
Excellency, the
Desenvolvimento Nuclear e
Director
Tecnológico
of the
da Marinha, Almirante
Development
de Esquadra
of
Marcos Sampaio
Nuclear
Olsen,
Activities
Excelentíssimo Senhor Presidente
for
da
the
Autoridade
Brazilian
Regulatória
Navy,
Nuclear da Argentina, Engenheiro Agustín
General
Arbor Gonçalves,
Olsen, Sampaio
representante do
Olsen,
Secretário-Geral da Presidência da Argentina, Dr. Julio Fernando Vitor minha prezada
and the
colega
President of
Helena
the Regulatory
Maceiras,
Authority of
demais distintas
Argentina,
autoridades,
Agustin Arbor
prezados
Gonzalez,
membros da comissão da Abacc, prezados
members
oficiais da
of the
Secretaria da
Abacc
Abacc,
Commission,
senhoras e senhores.
and groups of the
Bom dia a
Secretariat.
todos.
Ladies
É
and
uma
gentlemen,
honra e prazer contar com a presença de
it is
cada
an honor and a pleasure to
neste dia
have
tão
each one of you
especial para a
present on
Abacc.
this very special day for
Formar,
ABAC,
consolidar e manter uma
being a
organização
part of and
técnica
consolidating
com
and maintaining
credibilidade
a technical
internacional
organization
é
with
desafio
international
imenso,
credibility is a huge
especialmente uma
challenge,
área tão
especially
sensível e
in an area
sofisticada
as sensitive
como o
and
controle e
sophisticated
contabilidade de
as the
materiais
control and
nucleares,
accounting of nuclear
área
materials,
conhecida
an area
internacionalmente como
known
salvaguardas
internationally
nucleares.
as nuclear
Nesta
safeguards.
data marcante em que celebramos o 30º aniversário da
On this
Abacc,
landmark date,
vale
when
a
we
pena
celebrate
fazer
ABAC's
uma
30th
reflexão
anniversary,
sobre alguns
it is worth
fatores
reflecting
que
on some of the
contribuíram para
factors
que a agência
that have
fosse tão bem
contributed to the
sucedida em suas
agency's
atividades nesse
success
período.
in its
O
activities
primeiro
throughout
deles
this period.
foi a determinação, a
The first of
dedicação
these was
e
the
o talento
determination,
dos
dedication,
representantes
and
dos
the
dois
talent
países,
of the representatives
diplomatas e
of our two
técnicos,
countries,
que materializando
diplomats,
a
technicians,
decisão política dos
who
governos,
helped to
negociaram
bring
acordo
the decision
bilateral
of the
para os usos
governments
exclusivamente
into
pacíficos da
reality. They
energia
negotiated the
nuclear.
bilateral agreement for
O
exclusively
acordo
peaceful uses
determinou
of
os
nuclear
mesmos
energy.
direitos e
The
obrigações dos
agreement
dois
determined the
países
same rights and
quanto ao
obligations
uso
of the
da
two countries
energia nuclear
regarding the
e à
use
não
of nuclear
proliferação.
energy and
Ele
nuclear
é, portanto,
non-proliferation.
justo,
It is
harmônico
therefore
e não
fair,
discriminatório.
harmonious, and
O acordo
non-discriminatory.
bilateral formalizou o
The
sistema
bilateral
comum de
agreement
contabilidade e controle de
formalized the
materiais
common
nucleares
system of
e
accounting for
estabeleceu
and
a
control
Abacc,
of nuclear
uma
materials
agência
and
com
established
personalidade
ABAC
jurídica
as
internacional,
an agency
cuja
with
função
international legal,
precípua é administrar aquele
as a legal
sistema.
entity, whose primary
Assim,
function is to
o
administer
acordo
that
bilateral
system.
definiu precisamente
Therefore,
a
the
missão da
bilateral
Abacc,
agreement
que é
precisely
verificar que
defined
todos
the
os
mission
materiais
of ABAC,
nucleares em
which is to
todas as
verify
atividades
all
nucleares dos
nuclear
dois países
materials in
são
all
usados
nuclear activities
exclusivamente para
of the
fins
two countries
pacíficos.
are being
Além
used
disso,
exclusively
o
for
acordo
peaceful
bilateral
purposes.
definiu como a
Furthermore,
Abacc deve
it
proceder
defined
para bem
how
cumprir a sua
ABAC
missão.
should proceed in
O
order
acordo
to
bilateral
fulfill its
criou,
mission
na
properly.
verdade,
The
modelo
bilateral
Abacc,
agreement
que é
actually
composto por
created an
tripé
ABAC model,
formado
which is
pela
composed
Abacc,
of a
pelas
tripod
autoridades nacionais dos dois
formed by
países
the
e pelos
ABAC, the
operadores das
national
instalações
authorities of
nucleares.
the two countries, and the operators of the
Diferentemente
nuclear
de muitos
facilities.
países europeus
Unlike
que compõem
many
a
European
Euratom,
countries
a
that
Agência
make up
Europeia de
Euratom,
Salvaguardas,
the
em que as
European
autoridades
Safeguards
nacionais de
Agency,
salvaguardas foram
in which the
extintas,
national
o
safeguards
acordo
authorities were
bilateral manteve
extinguished.
todas as atribuições das
The bilateral
autoridades
agreement
nacionais de
maintained all
salvaguardas em
the
cada país.
attributions of the
A
national safeguards
Autoridade
authorities in
Regulatória
each
Nuclear
country,
da Argentina
the
e a
Nuclear
Comissão
Regulatory
Nacional de
Authority
Energia
in
Nuclear do
Argentina
Brasil.
and the National
São
Nuclear Energy
autoridades
Commission in
sólidas,
Brazil.
bem
They
estruturadas
are
e
solid,
efetivas, que
well-structured, and
controlam o
effective
material nuclear em
authorities
seu respectivo
that
país.
control the
Elas são,
nuclear
portanto,
material
a
in their respective
interface entre a
countries.
Abacc e os
Their
operadores das instalações nucleares.
interface between ABAC and the
Todo
operators
acordo
of the
pressupõe
nuclear
que as partes
facilities.
ajam de boa fé
Every
e em base
agreement
cooperativa.
assumes that the
Se uma
parties
parte
act in
falha,
good faith
o
and
sistema todo
in
falha.
cooperation.
Nestes
If one
30
party
anos,
fails, the whole
todas
system
as
fails.
partes têm
In these 30
continuamente
years,
cooperado
all
para o
parties have
cumprimento do
continuously
acordo
cooperated
bilateral.
to fulfill
Deste
the
modo,
bilateral agreement.
estamos celebrando hoje, mais do que o
Today,
aniversário da
therefore,
Abacc,
we are celebrating more
estamos
than the
celebrando o
anniversary of
aniversário
ABAC.
deste
We are
modelo
celebrating the
bem-sucedido,
anniversary of this
que é o modelo
successful
Abacc.
model that is the
Gostaria
ABAC
ainda de
model.
ressaltar
I would also like to highlight a key provision of the bilateral agreement, which is the right of operators of nuclear facilities to protect sensitive technological, commercial, and industrial information. This required Abacc to make an effort to adapt safeguards designs to the operator's requirements. This is an exercise in creativity and development that was very successful, as it was able to execute robust safeguards while at the same time protecting sensitive information. The second factor was the permanent political support that the governments of the two countries offered the Abacc in order to keep it independent in its verification activities and in its conclusions. On the other hand, the verification of nuclear materials requires sophisticated and expensive precision measurement and control instruments, which evolve very quickly and need to be continuously updated. This has only been possible with the regular budgetary contribution that the two countries have provided to the Secretariat over these years. Another essential factor was the technical support that both countries provided to Abacc, as stated in the bilateral agreements, such as the provision for analytical laboratories, and most importantly, the work of highly qualified scientists, engineers, and technicians. Ever since its very beginning, both countries provided their best technical personnel to work at Abacc as officers and as inspectors. Our two countries decided in 1990 at the Iguazu Falls Declaration to link the bilateral verification scheme to the international non-proliferation regime, which resulted in the signing of the quadripartite agreement in December of 1991 between Argentina, Brazil, Abacc, and the International Atomic Energy Agency. In fact, the negotiations were carried out in this very same room that we're in today. The quadripartite agreement is a sui generis agreement, as it is based on the common system of accounting and control of nuclear materials. Dr. Elena Macedas has already mentioned the good coordination of activities between Abacc and the IAEA. I believe that it should be a permanent objective of both agencies to increase the efficiency of these activities in order to minimize the duplication of activity. An important factor for the international projection of Abacc were the technical cooperation agreements with institutions that work in the nuclear safeguards area, aiming at the exchange of knowledge and the development of projects and technologies of interest to the Abacc. There are technical cooperation agreements with institutions from Argentina, Brazil, the European Commission, the United States, and South Korea, as well as with the IAEA and the important agreement that we have with them. Furthermore, Abacc actively participates in two important international safeguards forums where new technologies are presented and discussed. The European Safeguards Research and Development Association and the Nuclear Materials Management Institute based in the United States. In these 30 years, Abacc has performed more than 3,200 inspections for nuclear material verification. In this time, the amount of uranium in inventory grew 3 times, and that of plutonium grew 5 times,
requiring our focus on increasing efficiency and effectiveness, as the same structure and number of ABAC officers were maintained. Just to get a sense of the level of responsibility that is required, it is enough to mention that the amount of nuclear material currently under control of the ABAC would be enough raw material for the manufacture of approximately 4,000 rudimentary atomic bombs. I would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to all 38 Argentine and Brazilian members of the ABAC Commission, to all 4 Argentine and 3 Brazilian secretaries who preceded us, and to the 192 inspectors and all the technical officers and administrative staff who worked and still work in the Secretariat. Allow me to pay special tribute to the first 2 secretaries, Dr. Jorge Antonio Cole, who unfortunately has already left us, and Dr. Carlos Seu Alvim da Silva, who were instrumental in the consolidation of ABAC. The permanent challenge now and in the future is to maintain the technical capability of excellence at an international level, so that the conclusions of the verification activities are accurate, correct, independent, and credible. I am sure that everyone involved directly or indirectly in ABAC's activities will be motivated and dedicated to face all the challenges ahead. Finally, I would like to express the pride of ABAC officials in being able to contribute decisively to the peaceful use of nuclear energy in both countries, and thus contribute to regional and international security, as well as to thank each government for its confidence in ABAC. I appreciate the presence of all of you at this celebration, which honors us very much. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento assistiremos à mensagem gravada pela excelentíssima senhora subsecretária-geral e alta representante do secretário-geral das Nações Unidas, senhora Izumi Nakamitsu.
Excellencies, it is a great pleasure to join you in commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Brazilian-Argentine Agency for Accounting and Control of Nuclear Materials, or Abacc. The Abacc is the centerpiece of a complex arrangement that ensures verification of commitments made by Argentina and Brazil regarding exclusively peaceful uses of nuclear energy. This initiative has successfully put an end to decades of mutual distrust between Brazil and Argentina regarding their respective nuclear programs. And it removed the risk that either country, motivated by fear or misperception of the other, could move in the direction of nuclear proliferation. With the Abacc, mistrust gave way to transparency. Transparency created trust, and trust enabled cooperation. The experience of the past 3 decades has demonstrated the wisdom of the decision made by Argentina and Brazil. Both chose to become strategic partners rather than rivals. The success we celebrate today is the fruit of much effort and, above all, of the political will, determination, and ingenuity with which Argentina and Brazil faced and their challenges in the nuclear field. 30 years later, the Abacc experience is clearly an example to be followed. It is the outcome of great technical and diplomatic cooperation between Argentina and Brazil. Abacc also represents an important contribution to regional security and nuclear non-proliferation. I hope that other countries currently locked in a dynamic of competition and mistrust in the nuclear field can take profit of the Abacc experience, adapting it to their respective realities. I trust that both countries will be able to preserve the legacy of the first 30 years of Abacc and strengthen it further. I am equally confident that Abacc will continue to have much to celebrate over the next 3 decades and beyond. I thank you.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento assistiremos à mensagem gravada
Ladies
pelo
and gentlemen,
excelentíssimo
we
embaixador
will now
Flávio
listen
Roberto
to
Gonzanini,
the
secretário-geral do
message
Organismo para a Proscrição das
of
Armas Nucleares na
Dr.
América
Bonini.
Latina e no Caribe.
Excelentíssima doutora Helena Maceiras, secretária da Agência Brasileiro-Argentina
Dr.
de
Helena
Contabilidade
Mercedes, Secretary of the Brazilian
e
Argentine
Controle de
Agency for
Materiais
Accounting and
Nucleares.
Control of Nuclear Materials.
Excelentíssimo senhor Carlos Alberto França, ministro das Relações Exteriores da República
His Excellency
Federativa do
Carlos
Brasil.
Alberto França, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federative Republic of Brazil. His Excellency Felipe Carlos Solá,
Ministro de
Minister
Relações
of Foreign
Exteriores
Affairs
emérito
of
da
the
República Argentina.
Argentine Republic.
Excelentíssimo senhor
His
Rafael
Excellency Rafael Mariano Grossi, Director
Diretor-Geral da
General
Agência
of the
Internacional de
International
Energia
Atomic
Atômica.
Energy Agency.
Excelentíssimo Dr. Marco Antônio Marzo.
And the Honorable
Senhoras
Dr.
e
Marco
senhores,
Antonio Marzo.
é para mim uma grande honra participar
Ladies
deste
and gentlemen, it
evento
is a great honor for me to
comemorativo
participate in
e
this
agradeço a
celebratory event,
oportunidade
and I am
de
grateful for the
dirigir esta
opportunity
alocução
to
às altas
lead this
autoridades dos
discussion
governos
with
da
and
Argentina
make
e
this
do
address
Brasil,
to the high
bem
officials
como às
of
altas
the Argentine and
autoridades da
Brazilian
Agência
governments, as well
Brasileiro
as to the high
Argentina
officials
de
of the
Contabilidade
Brazilian
e
Argentine
Controle de
Agency for
Materiais
Accounting and Control
Nucleares,
of Nuclear
em
Materials,
especial a sua secretária,
particularly its
doutora Helena
secretary,
Maceiras.
Dr. Elena Mercedes.
Nesse sentido, quero estender as minhas
In this
mais
regard, I'd like
calorosas
to extend my
felicitações
warmest
pelo 30º
congratulations
aniversário do
to
Acordo
you all for
de
the 30th
Guadalajara
anniversary of the
sobre o
Agreement
uso
of Guadalajara on the
exclusivamente
exclusively
pacífico da energia
peaceful
nuclear
use of nuclear energy
entre a
between
República Argentina
Argentine
e a
Republic
República
and the
Federativa do
Federative
Brasil,
Republic of Brazil.
o qual deu origem à Agência
This
Brasileiro-Argentina
agreement
de
gave birth to the
Contabilidade
Brazilian
e
Argentine Agency
Controle
for
de
Accounting
Materiais
and Controls of
Nucleares,
Nuclear
Abacc.
Materials, also known as Abacc.
Através desse acordo,
Through
a
this
Argentina e
agreement,
o Brasil
Argentina and
afirmaram
Brazil
seu
affirm
compromisso
their
inequívoco com
unequivocal
o uso
commitment
estritamente
to the
pacífico
strictly
da energia
peaceful
nuclear
use of nuclear
e, ao
energy.
mesmo tempo, reafirmaram
And at the same
e
time, they
fortaleceram o espírito
reaffirmed
do
and
Tratado para a
strengthened
Proscrição
the spirit of
de
the
Armas
Treaty of the
Nucleares
Prohibition of
na
Nuclear
América Latina e
Weapons
no Caribe,
in Latin
o
America and the
Tratado de
Caribbean,
Tlatelolco.
also known as the Treaty of
Aliás, a
Tlatelolco.
Abacc e a OPANAL, Agência
Indeed,
para a
the ABAC
Proscrição de
and
Armas
OPANAL,
Nucleares
the Office
na
for the
América Latina e
Prohibition
no
of
Caribe,
Nuclear Weapons in Latin
constituem
America and
claro
the Caribbean,
exemplo para o
are a
mundo
clear
e são motivo de
example
orgulho
to the
para a
world
região.
and a source of pride for
Ambos
the
são
region.
organismos únicos em seu gênero.
Both are unique
A
bodies
ABAC,
of their kind.
como único organismo
ABAC
regional de
as the only
salvaguardas,
regional safeguards body,
e a OPANAL
and
como único
OPANAL
organismo dedicado
as the only body completely
completamente ao
dedicated to
desarmamento nuclear
nuclear
e
disarmament
a
and
não proliferação.
non-proliferation.
Desde 1993,
Ever since
ano em que a ABAC
1993,
e a
when
OPANAL
Abacc
subscreveram um
and
acordo de
OpenL
cooperação,
signed
os dois
an
organismos
agreement
têm
of
mantido
cooperation. The
estreito
two
contato,
bodies have maintained
assim
close
como
contact
constante intercâmbio de
and a
informações
constant exchange of
sobre as
information
atividades
on
nucleares
nuclear
da
activities
Argentina e do
in
Brasil, em
Argentina and in
cumprimento dos
Brazil,
dispositivos
and in
do
compliance with
Tratado
the
de Tlatelolco.
provisions of the Treaty of Tlatelolco.
Senhoras e senhores, eu estou convencido de que as
Ladies and
experiências da
gentlemen, I am
Abacc
convinced
e
that
da
the
OPANAL
experiences of Abacc and
podem, sem
OpenL
dúvida, servir de
can
modelo
undoubtedly
e
serve
fonte
as
de
a
inspiração
model and source of
para as outras
inspiration
regiões do
for other
mundo,
regions
em especial
in the
para
world,
aquelas que buscam estabelecer
especially for those seeking
zonas
to
livres
establish
de armas
nuclear weapons-free
nucleares
zones
e
and
um
an effective
sistema de
verification
verificação
system,
efetivo sobre as atividades
particularly
exclusivamente
on
pacíficas
peaceful
para o
activities
desenvolvimento
for
da
the
energia
development
nuclear.
of nuclear energy.
Muito obrigado e os meus parabéns novamente.
Thank you very much, and my congratulations once again.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento fará uso da palavra o excelentíssimo senhor embaixador
Ladies
Rafael
and
Mariano
gentlemen,
Grossi,
now
diretor-geral
we
da
will
Agência
hear
Internacional de
the
Energia Atômica.
words of Ambassador Rafael
Senhoras e
Grossi.
senhores, bons dias a todos. Verdadeiro prazer estar
Hello,
aqui.
everyone.
Baixo
It's
olhar
truly
sábio
a
do Barra
pleasure
Verde
to be
Branco.
here with you
Estar aqui no Rio para comemorar,
and to be here in
para celebrar
Rio de
desses feitos
Janeiro
tão
to
importantes que
celebrate
tiveram lugar 30 anos
such
atrás.
important events that took place 30 years ago.
Toda comemoração é uma
Any celebration
oportunidade para
is
celebrar
an
o
opportunity
passado,
to
para pensar o
celebrate
presente e
the
também
past,
para
to think about
refletir
the
no
present,
futuro.
and also to
O
reflect
passado
upon what
foi
will
o que
come in the
foi.
future.
Muito
The
coragem
past
foi
is what it
necessário nessas
was.
épocas para
There was a lot
cruzar
of
essa
courage
linha,
that was
estabelecer
necessary
essa linha
back in
que
those
passou
times
da
to
rivalidade
cross
latente
this
à
line that
cooperação e amizade consolidada.
led us
Mas
to
eu
more cooperation and
personalmente
solidarity.
vivo isso com
But personally,
bastante emoção porque
and I say this with a lot
fiz
of
parte dessa
emotion,
geração de então jovens diplomatas que trabalharam aqui em Buenos Aires.
there are
Em
many
Viena também,
diplomats who work
nessas
here
negociações
in Buenos
que
Aires
levaram a que agora é a Abacc e os acordos atinentes.
who now are
Mas
part of Abacc.
o risco
But
de dizer algo óbvio, 2021
dare I
não
say
é
something so
1991.
obvious,
Tá
but
bom dizer assim.
2021 is not
Como
1991.
a gente sabe, estou aqui no marco de uma visita
As you all
oficial
know,
ao
I am
Brasil,
here as
que
part of
começou
an
no
official
Nordeste,
visit to
na
Brazil.
Recife.
It started in the
Estive em São
northeast of Brazil,
Paulo, o Rio, aqui a
and
Angra,
then I came to São Paulo,
visitando todas essas instalações
Rio,
nucleares do Brasil.
and many other
O Brasil está
places, Angra,
fazendo
and I
progresso
visited the
admirável,
different
com tantos níveis,
nuclear
tantos níveis.
installations
Vi com
and
muita alegria que
facilities, and I
finalmente
have
a
lots
retomada
of
de Angra
admiration for
3
this.
é uma realidade,
And I
como
can
explicou o
see the
ministro Bento.
importance and the
Também
reality
tudo
that
que
it
se
is
faz
the,
no prédio
the resumption
da
of
IPEN,
Angra 3.
São Paulo.
We also have the
O
EPEN
sítio da construção
building in São
do
Paulo,
primeiro reator
the
multipropósito
site for the
brasileiro,
construction
tão
of the
importante
first
para a
multi-purpose
saúde da gente no
reactor
Brasil
in Brazil, and
e
that's
na região.
very important for
Também
Brazil
em
and
São
for
Paulo,
our region.
com meus amigos da
Also in
Marinha
São Paulo,
Brasileira,
my
vendo todos
friends
os
from the
avanços
Brazilian Navy
importantes no projeto tão ambicioso e
showing
importante
all
da
the
produção naval.
advances
Tudo
and
isso
ambitious
muito importante é de
advances
fazê-lo
that they've made
com
in
a
the
presença
naval
ativa da
realm,
Abacc e da agência
and
nuclear
they
de
did
Viena.
it though
No meu
with
país, na
the
Argentina, também
presence of ABAC.
temos feito muitos
And
progressos.
for Argentina,
Faz poucos
we
dias,
have also
a
seen
Argentina
lots of
aprovou
progress.
o seu novo plano nuclear
Argentina
com a construção
approved
de uma
its new
quarta
nuclear
central, também
plan,
uma quinta. Na
which
Argentina temos também muito
which foresees
avançado
the fourth
o
nuclear power
processo de
plant in
construção
Argentina,
de reator de pesquisa RA10,
as
que é
well
o
as the
gemelo
research
do
reactor.
RMB. E também temos o primeiro
And we also have the first, and when I say we, I mean we, all of us, the first modular reactor. I think that this is formidable and wonderful for us, but also must think about, as has often been said, that these realities deserve and need an institutional safeguards framework that will oversee these advances in progress. This program, the nuclear program of Argentina and of Brazil, are no longer the same as they were back in the past. Nowadays, we have a very large number or amount of nuclear materials. And so Brazilians and Argentinians and Abacc, we need to think about the evolution. The way we have to think about how the men and women of the 1990s were thinking, and we don't want to come here and repeat the same thing that we did back in the day and every 10 years. We need to strengthen Abacc. We need to work for a safeguards agreement and framework that is very strong and cooperative between the two countries. The Vienna Agency will always be our partner and will be a friend in this journey. Thank you very much.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento fará uso da palavra o excelentíssimo senhor Agustín Arbor González, presidente da Autoridade Regulatória Nuclear da Argentina.
Arbor González, the president of the Argentinian Nuclear Regulatory Authority.
Buenos días.
Hello, good morning. First of all, it's an honor for me to be here and represent the presidency of Argentina. At this celebratory event, we are talking about a source of pride for my country in this particular organization, this institution, Abacc. On behalf of the regulatory authority, I'd like to greet you, and particularly Dr. Elena Macedas, the Secretary General of Abacc, and Assistant Secretary Marco Marzo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, Mr. Franco França, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Argentina, Felipe Solá, and Marco Cesar Pontes, the Minister of Science and Technology and Innovation of Brazil, and his counterpart from Argentina, Roberto Salvareza, and Ambassador of Argentina, Mariano Grossi, as well as all the members of the diplomatic corps in this area of science, technology, and innovation between Brazil and Argentina. I won't even mention the importance of this agreement between Argentina and Brazil for the strictly peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and I won't go into the future of this agency, nor about the quadripartite treaty. But what I would like to talk to you about are some reflections, thoughts about the reduction of Abacc and the community that this institution carries out as a safeguards organization. Considering the law that establishes safeguards activity and the regulatory authority of Argentina, we are in charge of inspection of all the nuclear activity in Argentina. And one of our goals are to oversee the nuclear activities to make sure that they are solely for peaceful purposes, in line with the policies of non-proliferation. Of course, this bilateral agreement places Brazil and Argentina in an equal status for this common accounting and controls of materials, which is the Abacc organization. I'd like to point out the idea of RN and how much we have worked to bring human capital to our organization, to the Abacc organization, both because of our obligations, but also because of our beliefs in this particular treaty. We contribute experts so that they can participate in ad hoc work groups for Abacc or for training people on safeguards and verification activities, particularly so that they can work independently. RN, the regulatory authority, has also been working very important things related to Abacc and respects Abacc, particularly our Secretary of Abacc, Dr. Elena Macedo. In collaboration with Abacc, RN has supported the example of training different people from the agency, particularly in the latest procedures for equipment and software and procedures for using Abacc properly, amongst others. By giving our most skilled human resources to Abacc, we are always doing so with the belief that we are providing structure to Abacc so that we can give it continuity. As I mentioned a few moments ago, Abacc was in charge of inspecting nuclear activities and also to do periodic verification of all the facilities and the material used in Brazil and Argentina to make sure that all of these materials are being used properly and are being stored properly. One of the distinctive elements of this system is its inspection scheme, which allows different parts of Argentina and Brazil to inspect each other. And this is very relevant for the specialization of the different sectors. It's also important to keep in mind that Abacc's work is very wide-ranging in the different countries because we are covering many different facilities. We know that by 2020, we had 880 inspectors working in different activities, both before and after the inspection too. And in the pandemic, we also had some additional challenges. And we dedicated many people to inspections, as well as another 70 people to the design of inspections to comply with our bilateral agreement. Our inspectors, as well as the work of the Secretariat,
allows us to get to effective conclusions. As a member of Abacc, I'd also like to congratulate each of the parties of CNEM and the Argentinian Regulatory Authority for all they do to reach the objectives of Abacc. Abacc is unique in the world and is doing crucial work for overseeing the nuclear activities in our two countries. We have overcome many challenges along the way, and we have been successful. And we hope that there will be many more years of success in the future. If you allow me, I'd like to also give a personal note here. First of all, I'd like to recognize the members of the Abacc Commission. First of all, Gabriela Martinique of the Chancellery and others, Minister Mada from the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and through all of them and their teams who contribute by fueling us to carry out the work of the agency. I'd also like to recognize the current officials of the Secretariat of Abacc, Ana Maria Vaz de Araújo, Sofia Aranda Morito, Mr. Diaz, Horacio Diaz, Carlos Yasser, Leonardo Dunkley, Mr. Molino, Marcos Teresa Moreira, Ms. Maria Ganoni, and others. And last but not the end just yet, I'd like to tell you, and I hope that my emotions don't overcome me, but the creation of Abacc had collaboration between the two countries prior to the establishment of the agency. Marco Marzo and I, we did that collaboration in the 1980s, and we worked together to develop safeguards between our two countries. And without that work, we wouldn't have achieved what we've achieved so far. And that's what really moves me, because those were some of the moments that led to creating this mutual trust between our countries in this very sensitive area, which is the nuclear area. And it gives me great pride to talk about this today, because it's practically the culmination of my career. And here we have 30 years, which is the culmination of that. It's the product of our hard work together. Everyone performed very well with the Secretariat, working with Abacc over these past 30 years. We had lots of work together that contributed to the Brazilian agency and made sure that we had safeguards, but also recognized and has been recognized by the international community. Thank you very much.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento,
ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to give the floor.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento fará uso da palavra o excelentíssimo senhor Marcos Pontes,
I'd like to give the floor
ministro de Estado da Ciência, Tecnologia e
Minister of
Inovações.
Science and Technology and Innovation of Brazil, Marcos Pontes. Marcos Pontes.
Ok, bom dia. Bom dia,
Okay,
bom dia
well,
a todos.
hello.
Hoje é
Good morning to you all. It's a happy day, a day of celebration, and that's very important.
Gostaria de começar, cumprimentando a
I'd
todos
like to
já
start by
citados aqui no cerimonial.
greeting you all to this ceremony. And first of all, I'd like to greet everyone and congratulate Abacc for its 30th anniversary, and greet you all who are part of this agency, and also all of you who have made history in these 30 years. Each of you are part of the elements that made up this history. It's very clear that it is of great pride for me as the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation to be here and to have the participation of CNEM in this area, this field that's so important. It's so important to our policy, our nuclear policy. And let's talk about the applications of nuclear technology, the science of technology, of nuclear technology. We have different applications for health, the environment, and for helping our Navy as well. And there are so many other applications that are making use of nuclear energy for so many different things. Obviously, of course, we have the nuclear energy generation that is produced in both of our countries. This time that we're living through with COVID-19 made it very clear that the union between our two countries is very important, particularly when we are dealing with a threat that affects all of humanity. And it has also had an impact on our nuclear activities and all the different scientists that are working here. So we also have to think about how we can reduce the impacts of the pandemic now and in the future. Nuclear science and all its peaceful uses is very important, but we also have to reduce the risks. And we need to reduce and prohibit the non-peaceful uses of nuclear energy. And I'm very excited about our contributions to the International Space Station. And so it's great to see the success of Abacc and think about the future of this agency and the different innovations that we can create here in Brazil and how we can help so many different people and work in synergy with all of our different collaborators, both in Brazil and in Argentina, and to make sure that our decisions on a daily basis help us to continue working together. These flags that are here aligned one next to the other really emphasizes and underscores the partnership that we have between our two countries. Success is a very important word, but it really needs to come with the other word, which is trust. We need to share, and I've already talked about this with other ministers here, but we need to improve the cooperation between our two countries, and I think that Abacc has done this. It has helped improve cooperation between the two areas in the two countries. And so, I'd like to just underscore the risks involved in the applications of nuclear technology. because it's important to underscore that many technologies have two sides to them, the positive and the negative. So they can be very beneficial, but they can also be very noxious. And so I'd just like to thank Abacc and congratulate Abacc and everybody here for all the success that has come of this agency. I am sure that we can talk on behalf of our countries for all the work that we've done together. We are a leader in the world, and particularly Abacc. And so thank you so much for all you've done.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento fará uso da palavra o excelentíssimo Dr. Roberto Salvarezza, Ministro de Estado da Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação da
the
Argentina.
Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation of Argentina.
Buenos días. Me honra estar aquí
Good morning.
acompañándolos.
What an honor to be here with all of you and all the different authorities and officials who have already been mentioned this morning. So much empathy, so much pride, celebrating these 30 years of Abacc. And they also reflect this tradition, this operation that we have had between the technological and scientific communities of our two countries. It's something very historic and strong, and there's a whole history behind it. And basically it organizes different areas in our two countries, and this idea that we've already heard from Marcos Pontes about biotechnology and astronomics and astrophysics, where all of our scientific communities are actively engaged day to day. But obviously, we also have to think about development, nuclear development, which means and needs Abacc, which today we are celebrating on its 30th anniversary. I'd like to point out that the agreement that's founded this agency crystallizes so much on the Brazilian and Argentinian side to its commitment to completely peaceful uses of nuclear energy and all the products that are developed therefrom. I'd also like to take this opportunity to highlight the political will for transparency on nuclear activities, as well as the men and women in technology and science that help so much. Also, all the autonomous people who work on developing technology and everything that they've contributed to the development and maintenance of Abacc over these 30 years. Very clearly, it had an impact on the technical capacity of Abacc, which is recognized around the world as an essential factor for guaranteeing the institutional independence of safeguards, conclusions, and effective verification. Abacc does not only have a technical and administrative structure in terms of its human capital, thinking about its very skilled, highly skilled staff in the nuclear area, but also a specialized group of inspectors in the different fuel cycle facilities that the two different countries have for the optimal development of nuclear technology. We're talking about latest generation technology and laboratories in Brazil and in Argentina that make up this network, and different technical and safeguards approaches
something that we have contributed a lot to in the international community, which is the development of the sampling process of uranium and plutonium, which not only optimizes the amount of these raw materials that we have to use, but also reduces how much we have to use. Both of our scientific communities has worked on this, and we have had this process and method approved by international agencies. But we also know that it's being considered by the IAEA for its possible use in other installations around the world. I think that this is something that needs to be highlighted given the contribution that we have made to science and technology in the world. It's also important to keep in mind the huge potential that nuclear energy has and the role that Abacc plays. Because today, nuclear energy, isn't simply about having nuclear energy facilities, but it's also working with agriculture to reduce plagues and to help in the health care field and other sectors. For example, working with mosquitoes that transmit our vectors for dengue and Zika. There's just so much potential that the nuclear field has, way beyond any of the fields that are the most recognized in the nuclear area, but also others. Abacc is an example of transparency and the promotion of trust, and they will continue to be fundamental in the cooperation between Brazil and Argentina. However, the credibility that this agency has gained over its 30 years has become a very important asset for countries as a fundamental contributor to non-proliferation. Brazil and Argentina gain from Abacc a framework that establishes the ties between these two countries and helps them with a strategic alliance that values this shared wealth that we have in this agency that today meets 30 years. Thank you so much.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento, fará uso da palavra o excelentíssimo almirante de esquadra Bento Albuquerque, ministro de Estado de Minas e Energia.
The Minister of Mines and Energy of Brazil, Squadron Admiral Bento Albuquerque.
Senhor Ministro de Estado das Relações Exteriores, querido amigo,
His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Relations,
ao gentil convite para estar mais uma
Mr.
vez
Franco
neste
França,
palácio
whom I
que evoca
thank
em
for
todos
this
nós a figura de Rio Branco.
invitation to be
Senhor
here
Ministro de
and
Estado das
address
Relações
this
Exteriores,
distinguished
Comércio
group of people.
Internacional e Culto da
I'd also like
Argentina,
to address
Solar,
the
em nome de
Minister
quem
of
cumprimento todas
Foreign
as autoridades já
Affairs,
citadas.
International
Senhoras e
Trade
senhores,
and Worship of
É
Argentina's
uma
Mr.
satisfação
Felipe Solá.
e uma
Ladies and
alegria muito
gentlemen,
especial
it is with great
participar desta
satisfaction
cerimônia
and
de comemoração
happiness
dos
that
30
I am
anos de
here
criação
to
da
address
Agência
this
Brasileiro-Argentina
group on
de
the 30th
Contabilidade e Controle de
anniversary of
Materiais Nucleares.
Abacc.
Seja nos cargos que ocupei anteriormente na Marinha do Brasil,
Considering the
seja
different
no
roles that I
atual
have
cargo
had
de
in
Ministro de
other
Estado de Minas e Energia,
times of my
pude
career,
atestar
or as
na
the Minister of
prática
Mines and
o
Energy,
quanto nos
where
beneficiamos deste
we are
mecanismo.
constantly
A Abacc,
realizing
ao
how
longo dessas 3
important this
décadas,
mechanism is
contribuiu
for
de
us.
forma
Abacc, over
especialmente
these 3
eficaz, como
decades,
já mencionado,
has been
para os esforços
extremely effective
internacionais de não proliferação,
for the
com
international
base em um
efforts of
arranjo robusto
non-proliferation,
de
which is
contabilidade e
based on a
controle,
robust arrangement
desenvolvido em
of
conjunto com os
controls
governos da
and
Argentina
is
e
involved
do
in
Brasil
the
Agência Internacional de
collaboration
Energia
between Brazil and Argentina,
Atômica. A presença do embaixador Rafael Grossi,
the
o
presence
segundo
of Ambassador
diretor-geral a nos
Rafael Grossi,
visitar em 4 anos.
the second
E aproveito para prestar uma homenagem
member of the IAEA
especial
to
ao
visit us
diretor-geral
in
Amando,
4 years,
pelos relevantes serviços prestados à comunidade nuclear
and
mundial.
all the others who
A presença do embaixador
have
Rafael Grossi,
provided so much
como mencionei,
service to us all,
hoje é motivo
and
de dupla
others whom I
felicidade. Não apenas
mentioned
por ele
today.
representar aqui, no mais
I'd
alto
like
nível,
to
a Agência Internacional de
also,
Energia
I'm also
Atômica,
very glad
mas
that
também,
we
se
have
me permite
the
a liberdade,
highest
meu amigo
levels
Rafael,
of the IAEA
por ser o
here
primeiro
represented,
diretor-geral
but it's also the first
argentino-brasileiro da agência.
Argentinian-Brazilian
Nesses 30 anos da Abacc, temos, portanto, muito a
representative of the
comemorar,
IAEA.
a começar pelos programas nucleares do Brasil e da Argentina, que nestas 3 décadas
It's
se
wonderful to
desenvolveram
be
e se
here to
expandiram,
celebrate these 3
permitindo a
decades of
ampliação dos
collaboration
benefícios
between
dos usos,
Brazil and
aplicações
Argentina
pacíficos da
in
energia
nuclear
nuclear
activities,
para as nossas sociedades.
so that
O
we
Ministério
can
de Minas e Energia
continue
temos
providing
dado
nuclear
passos
energy to our
muito
societies.
decididos,
The Ministry
em
of Mines and
coordenação
Energy
com as
has made
demais áreas do
strides
governo, para promover
to
a expansão da energia nuclear
promote
na nossa matriz
nuclear
energética
energy
e
throughout
consolidar
the
a
government,
posição do Brasil
and
no
also
setor.
increase
O
the
nosso planejamento
electrical
energético
matrix,
de longo prazo,
our
o
energy
Plano Nacional
plan
de
for
Energia
the long term,
2050,
which is the
projeta uma
2050
ampliação da
National
geração
Energy Plan,
nuclear entre 8
expands our
e 10
nuclear
gigawatts nos
generation
próximos
by
30
8
anos.
to 10 gigawatts
Isso
in the next 30
implicará
years.
a construção
This
de
means
novas
that
usinas
we will be
nucleares
building
e também
new
de pequenos
nuclear power
reatores
plants
nucleares
and
modulares,
small
que são alternativa
modular
econômica
reactors,
para o
which are an
fornecimento de energia elétrica de base,
economical
sem emissões de carbono, para
alternative,
áreas isoladas,
and another way to
particularmente
reduce
em
carbon
país de
emissions,
dimensões
particularly
continentais
in
como
a
o Brasil.
country as large
Neste
as Brazil.
particular, quero saudar muito
On
especialmente
this
a
point,
liderança
I'd like
do
to
diretor-geral Rafael
highlight the
Grossi,
leadership
no sentido de
of
impulsionar
Rafael
e
Mariano
promover
Grossi
a energia nuclear
for
como parte
promoting
da solução
nuclear
para uma
energy
economia de
as
baixo
part
carbono,
of the
em
solution
linha com
for
os
a low
compromissos do
carbon
Acordo de Paris
future.
sobre mudança do clima.
At
Conte com o
the
Brasil,
Paris Treaty
caro
agreement,
Rafael,
at the Paris
para
Agreement
essa empreitada.
negotiations,
Estaremos
Ambassador
juntos
Rafael
com a agência
worked very
na
hard
COP26
to make
para
sure that we
discutir
would be
e
together for the
apresentar o
2026
papel que a energia nuclear tem a desempenhar
treaty to
nesse
show
esforço global de
the
descarbonização.
different role that
Internamente,
nuclear
estamos
will
avançando nos
play
ajustes
in the future
necessários para a
of
atualização do
energy.
marco
We are
legal
also
da
going to make the
atividade
adjustments
nuclear,
necessary
com a
for
criação da autoridade
the legal
regulatória
framework that we
nuclear,
have
cuja
for
medida
regulating
provisória
nuclear in
correspondente
Brazil.
foi enviada ao Congresso Nacional
This
pelo presidente Jair Bolsonaro.
This bill
Estamos
that
estabelecendo
is
condições
setting up this
jurídicas
new
de
framework has
independência
already been sent
para
to
que
the
a
Congress and is
autoridade
under
desempenhe
consideration.
suas ações
This will
como
help us
disposto na
to
Convenção sobre Segurança Nuclear.
make sure that
Toda a estruturação da autoridade
nuclear energy
está
and its
voltada
regulation
para
will
atender
be
os melhores
separated from
padrões
SINEM.
que almejamos,
And
do
we
ponto
want
de
to
vista
reach
técnico,
the highest
regulatório,
standards,
de segurança e
technically,
jurídico, como
regulatory,
também os
and
requisitos
safety and
internacionais.
legal, as
Estou
well as
certo de que
international
seguiremos
requirements.
contando com o apoio da Agência
I am
Internacional de
sure that we
Energia
will
Atômica,
continue to
seja na
rely on the
estruturação da Autoridade
IAEA
Regulatória
support as
Nuclear
well as the
Brasileira,
structuring
seja
of
na
the
implantação dos
Brazilian
pequenos
regulatory
reatores
framework
nucleares modulares,
and the small
ampliando a
modular
participação do
reactors.
Brasil nos
And we
programas
will
de cooperação
expand
técnica
Brazil's
da agência.
participation in
Por
technical
todas essas razões,
programs of
esta
this
data,
agency,
que marca 3 décadas
today,
de trabalho
which
conjunto
marks
entre o Brasil e
30
a Argentina
years
no
of
setor nuclear,
collaboration between
ao
Brazil
abrigo
and
da
Argentina
Abacc
in the
e
nuclear
mais
sector,
além dela, é
through
seguramente
Abacc,
uma data a ser
is
celebrada.
probably
Dos
a
fatores que
date, is for
determinaram
sure a date to
e
be
seguem
celebrated.
determinando o sucesso da Abacc
we want to
a
continue
qualidade e a
celebrating
dedicação do seu
Abacc's
corpo
success
técnico
and
todos
the
os seus
dedication of the
funcionários,
technical
aos
group
quais
and all
felicito
of the
hoje
staff.
muito calorosamente. Em seu
That is
conjunto,
being
por
celebrated
intermédio da doutora
wholeheartedly today,
Helena Maceiras e do doutor
particularly
Marco
Dr.
Março.
Elena
Muito
Mercedes
obrigado. Feliz
and
aniversário.
Mr.
ABAC.
Marco Marso. Congratulations to Abacc.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento, fará uso da palavra o
Ladies and gentlemen,
excelentíssimo
at this
senhor
time, I'd
Felipe
like to
Solá,
give the floor
ministro das
to
Relações Exteriores, Comércio
the
Internacional e Culto
Minister
da
of Foreign
República Argentina.
Relations of Argentina, Mr. Felipe Solá.
Es una alegría estar hoy aquí
It is with great pleasure
en
that I
esta
am
casa
here today
ilustre
with you
del Palacio de
in
Itamaraty,
this
que no conocía
beautiful
y del que he
place,
hablado mucho.
the
Itamaraty es una palabra de la que se habla
Itamaraty
mucho en
Palace.
Argentina, pero nunca había estado en el palacio. Quiero
I
saludar a mi
had
colega
never been to this actual
Carlos
palace
Alberto
before,
Franco Franza,
and I'd also
señor
like to
ministro, es
salute
un gusto
my
estar de visita
counterpart,
acá
Carlos Alberto
y ser
Franco
recibido
Franco,
por usted en esta casa.
and for
Quiero saludar
the
también
welcome
a los
he has
ministros
given me to this
de
house,
Ciencia y
as well
Tecnología
as
y de Minas y Energías.
a
Mucho uso de la
warm
palabra, los
felt
he
salute
escuchado
to the
con
different
mucho
ministers
gusto.
that are here and
Quiero
Dr.
saludar
Elena Macedos.
especialmente también
I'd also
a
like
nuestro
to
embajador Rafael
especially
Grossi,
uh,
que además de
mention
sorprendernos por
our
su
ambassador
portugués,
Rafael Mariano Grossi
es
for
una
his
garantía para nosotros de
delivery
actualización
in
permanente
Portuguese. It is an
tecnológica al
opportunity and
comando
a pleasure to
de la Agencia Internacional de Energía
have
Atómica,
at
pero
the
también es
head
una
of the
garantía
IAEA
de
a person
capacidad para
from our
mirar el
country, but
futuro.
also
Tenemos
it's a
un gran orgullo
guarantee
como argentinos
that
de
we
que
can
usted esté ahí,
continue looking forward
Rafael. Quiero
with that
saludar también
leadership
especialmente a
at
Elena
the IAEA.
Maceiras y a Marco
I'd
Marzo.
also like to mention Dr. Elena Macedas
Elena,
and
nosotros
Marco Marzo.
crecimos viendo
Elena,
al hombre nuclear,
we learned
así que me alegro que ahora
so much
existan las mujeres
about
nucleares.
the
Dicen
nuclear
mucho.
man, and so it's really a pleasure
Y
to
a
be able
Marco
to
Marzo
talk
le quiero
with
decir
a
que,
nuclear woman.
así
And
como
to Marco
dijo
Marzo, I'd like to
nuestro director de
say
la
that
agencia regulatoria,
as our
don
director
Agustín
of the
Albor
regulatory
González,
authority,
es bueno reconocerles a los dos
Agustin Albord
los esfuerzos
Gonzalez,
hechos
I'd like to
antes
recognize you
de
too
la
for
firma
all the things that you
del
did
acuerdo para crear la ABAC,
prior
la creación de
to
la ABAC en la
the
década del 80,
ABAC agreement,
porque esos esfuerzos,
particularly in the 1980s.
dando frutos, como bien dijo Albor González,
All that you did
deben ser vistos
really
como lo que son,
resulted in
que es la
something that
fe en el futuro que tiene el
should be
pionero,
seen as
el
what
sacrificio
it
del
really is,
pionero para
which is
hacer
the
un futuro que
trust that you
después,
have, the
y para
faith that we
convencer a las
have
autoridades
in
políticas de
each
que ese
other
futuro era
to
posible.
make the political
La ABAC
will
han
to
hablado
make this
ya mucho,
possible.
por lo cual yo voy a dejar mi discurso.
Many people have already touched upon many
Indudablemente
different topics that
hay
I think
en
are
la ABAC
important,
una
and
serie
therefore I'm going to
de
just
feliz
leave those aside and focus on
conjunción
other
de
points that
elementos.
haven't been
En primer
mentioned.
lugar, su
There
funcionamiento
are
de 30
many
años,
different elements
que ha
that
sido
make up ABAC.
excelente.
In these 30
Seguramente habrá tenido
years,
algunos
we
problemas,
see
pero esos
lots of
problemas han sido
successes. Of course, there
ocultados
probably have
o han
been
quedado atados porque los
problems
éxitos han
throughout
sido
this
mucho
time, but
mayores.
let's
Yo saludo a todos sus
say,
técnicos, todos sus
however, that the
profesionales,
successes have
a
been
todos
much greater
sus
than any kind of
trabajadoras
problems,
y trabajadores, especialmente de ellos
particularly
el día de hoy,
the
en
success
buena
of
medida,
the
y a ellos
workers
les doy un
that
abrazo
make up
fraterno como
ABAC.
canciller de la
I'd like
Argentina.
to give my
Lo
warmest
transmito a través de la persona de la secretaria y del señor
regards
subsecretario.
to all of these people at the
Quiero
staff of
decir
ABAC.
también que la
I'd
ABAC
also like to
es un
say
modelo.
that
No sé si
ABAC is a
son
model.
alrededor de 20, como me han dicho, los países
I'm not sure if
que
it's
tienen la
20
capacidad de enriquecer
countries,
uranio en el
as I've been
mundo, más o
heard,
menos, una cifra
that
parecida.
enrich
Pero no sé
uranium
cuántas
around the
se han
world,
comprometido en la
but
manera en que
I don't
Brasil y
know how
Argentina
many
llegaron a
have
comprometerse,
actually made the commitments that
teniendo además
Brazil and Argentina
un
have
gran
made
desarrollo, un importante
to
desarrollo en energía
peaceful
nuclear,
uses,
cuantificado
and the
por el señor
incredible development
subsecretario,
of
cuando
the
dijo
sector.
tenemos algo así como, corríjame, pero
As the Secretary said, we must have 20,000 or 4,000 rudimentary atomic bombs that could be made. And so that's really impressive. But really what it is a huge responsibility for us. And I'd like to point out, and it may seem obvious, but I don't think it's so obvious, but in 1991, there were political decisions that are irreplaceable, because those are what make up policy. And those events only help to improve the lives of our peoples. We also had strategic awareness of what each country was embarking on. We also had an idea, a vision for the future, because without that, you can't set up an agency that's going to take on such a huge and complex challenge as is the nuclear issue. And finally, and maybe most importantly, any statesperson, any politician has to value this very important element, which is trust. Trust is key. You have to be brave to be trusted, because you can be you can be betrayed if you trust. And so being trusting is very important. It requires bravery, but you also have to defend it. You have to keep on growing trust. We can say that today we're living in hard times. I couldn't agree more with that. But if we were to ask those who signed the Guadalajara Treaty in 1991, the agency and the foundation of the agency that was later committing to the Tlatelolco Treaty, if we hadn't told them that they were dealing with difficult times, those times were also difficult for Brazil in particular, and for Argentina as well, which was dealing with all kinds of hyperinflation and looting. And we had these kind of things. We had hard times back then, and we have hard times now. All times are hard. I've never heard of any president who only lives through good times. Every time is a hard time. The technicians, the professionals, all of those people who worked in the 1980s, all of those people who made a political decision and had the bravery, and they saw the future. They saw the potential of working together, and the meaning of the Brazilian-Argentinian cooperation and relationship. The trust and lack of trust that they had to overcome between the two military powers, but they did so. They overcame that, and they created a smarter way of working. The commitment to peace and security committed to in the Guadalajara Treaty, where Brazil and Argentina renounced the use and development of nuclear weapons for the consolidation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a peaceful region and the first nuclear weapons-free zone. This paragraph says it all. And I'd like to come back to this point of unity and union. In unity, we can do everything. United, it's almost impossible for anybody to overcome us. Getting together and uniting is difficult, but it has huge ramifications in the long run. Breaking up is easy. All you have to do is hurt each other and break up the relationship. And this is true both for people and countries. And I'd just like to remind you, not to beat a dead horse, but I'd just like to mention the pride that we have with regards to Abacc. Our national poem says that brothers have come together, and that's the most important. It's important to have true union in any time, because when you fight amongst each other, you hurt the others. And finally, I'd like to mention that this flag also has white and blue, and don't forget that. Thank you very much.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento, para uso da palavra do excelentíssimo senhor embaixador Carlos Alberto Franco França, ministro de Estado das Relações Exteriores. I'd like to give the floor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brazil, Ambassador Carlos Alberto Franco França. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to greet all of you. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all and for your words here at Abacc. Today is an opportunity to not only celebrate Abacc's 30th anniversary, but also the different ideas involved in nuclear collaboration and also transparency. Thinking about the safeguards between Argentina and Brazil in Abacc also reinforces the successes that we've had in engineering and development on the technical side. Our Abacc is established on an arrangement that is also recognized by the IAEA. As a result of this arrangement, which is the sum of many different factors, Brazil and Argentina are the first countries in the world that work together in collaboration on their nuclear program. The fundamental aspect is that countries in Abacc are reciprocal, and they have direct solutions for peaceful uses of energy. Beyond the bilateral issues, we also see the work of IAEA and the quadripartite treaty, which was signed in the same year as the creation of Abacc. In the systems of this agreement, we see that both of these nuclear programs are coordinated with the agency, and there's a lot of synergy. I'd like to thank you again for the presence of the IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi and the presence of so many other people who have come here to value Abacc and its very key role in the quadripartite treaty. We also like to highlight the predictability of this event, of this treaty. The political value of Abacc is the trust that it builds between our two countries. Brazil and Argentina knows more about nuclear programs
And the strength of this model makes our nuclear programs in both countries be higher, better when it comes to transparency and inspection. And we are two of the agencies in the world that receive the most nuclear inspectors. And this model could inspire other countries. Although right now we don't have direct application of Abacc, we believe that our bilateral arrangements could contribute to developing more trust and reducing tension between our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, our activities in verification make concrete commitments. We are following up on concrete commitments in Abacc with our verification activities, as well as our legally binding treaty. We are one of the only countries that, in their constitutions, limit nuclear activities to peaceful purposes. And we are committed to not producing nuclear weapons, and we're committed to non-proliferation in that sense. Brazil was also the first country to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Ban Treaty. Abacc required Argentina and Brazil to have lots of political bravery and awareness of its responsibility on the nuclear issue and for the implementation of this treaty. Minister Salah here mentioned how important the word and idea of trust is. Today's celebration is very important for the preservation of our experience at Abacc. Today, we have policies set up by Abacc that are recognized by the IAEA and others. Now, however, or therefore, is a very important time for nuclear activities, considering also Mexico and others. And Brazil reaffirms its commitment to nuclear non-proliferation and the development of peaceful uses, to strengthen Abacc even further, and its functions and skills, and its tight relationship with the IAEA. I believe that Abacc will continue to be a success story for cooperation and a leader in non-proliferation, and it's a model for other countries and for a greater objective, which is a nuclear weapon-free world. Thank you very much.
Senhoras e senhores, neste momento, o excelentíssimo senhor embaixador Carlos Alberto Franco França, ministro de Estado das Relações Exteriores, e o excelentíssimo senhor Felipe Solá, ministro das Relações Exteriores, Comércio Internacional e Culto da República Argentina, acompanhados dos ilustríssimos doutor Marco Marzo, secretário adjunto da Abacc, e doutora Helena Maceira, secretária da Abacc, encerram a placa comemorativa do 30º aniversário da Agência Brasileira Argentina de Contabilidade e Controle de Materiais Nucleares. Está encerrada esta cerimônia.
This ceremony is now finished. Thank you.